I want to tell you something. The mistake. A confession from far away. I online cheated on my husband from July 2017 until he found out in April 2018. I contacted someone I've had contact with before I got married and have been emailing, chatting, sending inappropriate photo. I didn't feel anything for the person I cheated with, but I wanted the attention because it made me feel good about myself. I have daddy issues. There was also another sort of relationship with someone, also online, which I regarded as a mentor, father-type figure, and for which I, at some point, thought I had romantic feelings for. When my husband found out, he went into a steep downward spiral. My entire family did. 1 daughter, 2 dogs, 4 cats. I never stopped loving my husband. I stopped any contact with the person I cheated with immediately and haven't been in contact ever since. I told my husband everything I could think of about the affair. He also asked questions, which I answered but not to his satisfaction. Example, he asked how long it had been going on but didn't believe me when I told him and says I have therefore not been forthcoming. My husband became Sherlock Holmes. He bugged my computer to see what I was doing, which was fine with me because I understood he needed assurance that nothing was going on anymore. I did not tell my husband about the mentor, father figure because it didn't occur to me as an affair because my romantic feelings were only temporarily non-substantial, in my opinion. And it was a long time ago. My husband felt that there had to be more. That's when I told him about the mentor, father figure. He sees this as having been lied to. Fast forward 3 years. My husband believes I'm not telling him the truth. He says he read a letter to the mentor, father figure mentioning someone named Terry. I did write that letter thanking him for listening to me, giving me advice and encouraging me career-wise. I also thanked his wife who had been giving me recipes here and there. I don't know anyone by the name Terry, and I know I didn't write anything about Terry. My husband says I did, despite the fact that he has records about everything I have done on my computer. Posts, emails, letters, chats, photos. He says he has no copy of this letter. I've been asked 1,000,000 times who Terry is and I can't answer it. I've gone as far as making up a story about Terry, saying that I slept with Terry. When I couldn't provide any proof of Terry, my husband knew I had lied, which I admitted. I know, stupid thing. We have just finished marriage counseling. 5 sessions, I believe, and it basically boils down to me not knowing how Terry is and my husband demanding I tell him who Terry is. Our therapist asked me husband if he would be able to start over and forgive me for what I have done, including the things he believes I'm lying about. He said, no way in hell. The therapist then asked me if I would be willing to live in a loveless marriage. My husband wants to stay married for the sake of our daughter. There is no sign of affection towards me. He doesn't not want to make love to me. He says he loves me and always will, but it seems it's not the kind of love I'm looking for or the kind of love I need. My husband is my life. He is the greatest man alive. He is the kindest man alive. I want to grow old with him. It means everything to me. I feel that my husband enjoys pressuring me about Terry. He enjoys it when I can't answer the question. He seems satisfied when I end up being frustrated over not knowing who Terry is. I believe this is his way of punishing me. I also believe that he is using Terry to prevent himself from forgiving me. We have made some progress in 3 years. It's small, but it's there. In the beginning, he said he doesn't trust me at all. In a recent session with the therapist, he said he doesn't trust me completely. That's a big difference to me and it gave me a bunch of hope. He also said that he knows there wasn't any physical contact with OM, whereas before he insisted that there was. He has acknowledged that I go out of my way to be transparent in everything I do. I let him know where I go, when I'll be back and what I'm doing there. My job requires me to drive several hours each day. I guess my question is my husband going to leave me and what can I do to make him stay? Funny thing is, I think I already know the answer. My husband doesn't know anyone by that name. I know that for sure. A few months ago, I was texting back and forth with one of my daughter's girlfriends over a few clothing items she had forgotten at her friend's house, and I was arranging to go pick them up because my daughter needed them the next day at school. I had just gotten the iPhone and the keyboard for texting is touchscreen. I was texting while driving. I know, that's bad. I accidentally texted Terry to my daughter's friend. Because her friend got sort of snippy with me, I showed the text conversation to my husband. Then he asked me who's Terry. I told him what had happened, texting while driving on a new iPhone. 2 weeks later I learned that he had read about Terry in that letter I wrote over 3 years earlier. Ever since, Terry has been a constant presence in my marriage. I do make it a point that there was no physical contact and never the slightest chance of such. The didn't mean a thing to me. I didn't agree with his opinions, his viewpoints, his taste. But he asked me how my day was. He told me I was smart. He listened to my crap. My husband didn't do any of these things for a long time before the affair started. Yes, I do tend to play down what I did because I never stopped loving my husband and I wanted nothing more than for him to be the one to ask me how my day was. And yes, I did reach out to him about these things before I started the affair. He says he recalls me doing this one time. I recall many other times. I know I didn't say it loud enough. I should have screamed it at him. The first 7 years of my marriage, my husband was an abusive drunk. I was totally worthless crap to him. It was okay for him to crash my head into the walls, pour beer onto me, and humiliate me in front of his friends at any opportunity. This is what alcohol can do. One day he woke up and he hasn't been drinking a drop of alcohol in almost 10 years. I didn't trust him the first few years. I took it day by day, but there was a point where I knew he would never ever drink again or hit me again. How did I know that? He changed his behavior. He changed his ways. He didn't come home drunk. Day by day by day. I don't think we would have made it through this had I yelled at him, "You're an abuser and wife beater," on a daily basis the way you just had to inform me that I have cheated and lied to my husband. I understand you must have been very hurt, and I wish this world was a better place where nobody ever has to endure failure, pain, and despair. I was the one to initiate counseling. I was the one to volunteer complete transparency without having to be told. I immediately stopped all contact without having to be told. I also willingly agreed to a lie detector test, which I passed. I'm doing it to this day and will for the rest of my life, and it's absolutely fine by me because I have no desire to go down that road ever again. My husband knows this, my family knows this. His parents know it. Independent counselor, like counseling just for him. I doubt he will go for that since we just finished counseling. He won't talk about if it helped him or not. It didn't help me. While in counseling, he only wanted to talk about issues during the sessions. When at home, it was sort of we pretended everything was fine. This drove me nuts because nothing was fine and I wanted to talk. I admit that some of the talks we had ended with me becoming hysterical because he would ask the same thing again and again. The Terry question, which I can't answer other than with "I don't know who Terry is." I did apologize for the outburst and I feel ashamed it happened. I was toying with giving him a polygraph for Christmas. I know he thinks I'm lying about Terry, so I figured that a poly about Terry would make him feel better. My husband is not a let's talk about our feelings kind of guy. He never has been. I think going to therapy was the hardest thing for him to do. Sit there and talk to a complete stranger about his private life. He didn't want to go. I made him. I think he went so I would be happy. He carries stuff around with him for years. I remember a time where he was screwed over at work big time. It took years for him to put it behind him even after he ended up with a better job and all. My mother-in-law once used the word paranoid, saying my husband is just like his father. I don't think of him that way and I reject the notion completely. I do believe there is a lot of insecurity, a huge ego, and the inability to talk about feelings. It's just him and his thoughts. I cannot give up on my marriage. We are planning on purchasing a home within the next 6 months. We work in the same industry and are planning on going independent together within the next, let's say, 2 years. We talk about these plans all the time and he is firmer about them than I am. We are financially tight, but we never fought over money. If money was very tight in the past as well, I'd boil the hot dogs and he'd slice the buns. Meaning we got through very meager times together and we came out fine. We do laugh together and we do have a deep friendship. He said I'm still his best friend and he is mine. There are a ton of positive things we still have, and we have overcome a boatload of crap as a couple. We consult each other on everything. Folks at work tell me that we are a very close to each other couple. All this gives me hope. It is something that is still there. It's a strong foundation that I believe can be used for a new start. I cannot waver and I will not unless he tells me it's over. There is another thing that I haven't mentioned, because there's so much that I would probably bring down my internet connection if I posted it all at one time. We did move out of our house last year, foreclosure pending. Because the bank hasn't taken any action at all, we moved back in earlier this year, thinking we'd save paying rent and keep the place in shape so the neighbors won't complain. This is when things started getting worse. No love making, no affection. And I asked him to go to counseling with me. Moving back brought back memories. To me most of them were good, past Christmases, pool parties, etc. To him most of them were bad. I cheated. I don't know if this has thrown him back. If I was in his place, I believe I would have hesitated moving back in. Time will tell. I had the opportunity and I didn't do it. I didn't go, I canceled it. And I told my husband. He didn't have to even ask about it or find out about it. The question was not asked in the polygraph because for whatever reason my husband didn't request it. He wrote up the questions. He picked them. I understand it might not have been enough questions, so I offered more tests. He declined without giving a reason. My husband told me his way of dealing with these things is putting them away or ignoring them. This resulted in resentment towards me, no affection, no lovemaking. Sleepless nights. I can understand the resentment and anything else directed towards me, but I'm not sleeping, and him being depressed as a result of him ignoring things that I believe we haven't worked through was not an option for me. Going to therapy, he called it opening a can of worms and that he doesn't want to throw knives at his wife and grill her once a week. I invited and encouraged the grilling and knife throwing because I honestly believed that it would help him work through some issues. It didn't. I canceled the meeting with the other man 5 months before my husband found out. Once he found out, I believe it was on the same day, I told him that there had a meeting planned about 5 months ago and that I canceled it. I don't think I could have canceled the meeting after my husband found out because the meeting was to be 5 months prior to him finding out. Your assumption is wrong. We are 3 years after D-Day. I can't fully understand my husband's pain because I've never experienced it. I have hurt him to the greatest extent. I broke all his trust. I have stopped affair immediately after discovery. I have never contacted OM again. I have no communication or contact of any sort with any other OM. I report my daily schedule. I call in when I go somewhere and when I get back. My husband has complete access to my daily schedule, my phone records, my computer, and all passwords that I could possibly have. I do not mind at all that he checks up on me. He says he doesn't, but I would welcome it because I have nothing to hide anymore. I have addressed his concerns the best I can. What he has asked of me, I have done. I have given suggestions to resolve questions I have not been able to answer other than I don't know. He has declined a second lie detector test. He has declined or ruled out the possibility to retrieve a letter in question. I have offered whatever money I have available for him to spend on investigating or clearing up unresolved questions. He has declined. I have initiated going to a therapist, which he did reluctantly. If there is anything else I need to do or have not done so far, please let me know. I do not know how to address my husband's pain over and over again. If you mean by that I should tell him daily how sorry I am, I will do that. If you mean I should do something to humiliate myself in front of him so he can feel even, I will do that too. I don't know how to daily address his pain. I have been very impatient with all this at times. My husband and I have had very hard fights about this at times. I have not been impatient about things because I just wanted to get over it and pretend nothing ever happened. I have been impatient because I didn't know how to correctly deal with it, and nothing hubby and I did helped us. There was no past experience to draw from. There were also no other folks around us that had gone through the same and saved their marriage successfully. The one and only thing I knew to do, and I know that I did that right, was to stop it immediately. Never do it again and give up all privacy. I realize that I haven't been trying to fix this for over 3 years. In the very beginning we saw a counselor one time. She prescribed pills for him. We couldn't afford counseling nor medication and we stopped going. Next was 3 years of doing nothing really. We got caught up in trying to dig out of a financial hole, dealing with our daughter's feelings. My husband changed careers and joined me in mine. His 2 daughters from his first marriage popped out of nowhere after 20 years of no communication and moved in with us, bringing along his first grandchild. All these things kept us busy with everyday life. None of us worked on the marriage. Everything seemed normal. Every aspect of our marriage was normal. Normal in terms of being the same way it was before the affair. I simply figured if things are back to normal, then we must have overcome this. Wrong, I know. When we moved back into our old house, foreclosure filing, we moved into a rental. Bank doesn't seem to bother moving forward with the foreclosure, so we figured we move back in and save the rent money towards purchase of a crappy foreclosure home we can fix up and own free and clear. We are almost there. Things changed. He had moods again and bonding decreased. I started digging about it and he said it's just work and that he was stressed. I waited some more and then I asked point blank. I called a marriage counselor and we had an appointment a week later. He doesn't talk about whether or not he feels it helped at all. I know it didn't help me. We were told to buy and read after the affair, which we did. From that point on, the sessions were mainly how are you feeling? Have you made any progress? See you next week. We didn't discuss the book. We didn't discuss why it happened. I was looking for an analysis, a summary, directions, instructions, suggestions, a roadmap. I don't know what my husband was looking for or what he got out of it. I feel like he's glad we're not going to therapy anymore. Update, I have found Terry, a person my husband wants me to explain. My husband says that I wrote a letter to someone in a forum, explaining why I'm no longer participating in the forum, cutting ties with friends and father figure mentor there. I have said over and over again that I don't know why Terry is. My husband said he has no copy of the letter, and I felt that since he didn't even have any proof of Terry, how am I supposed to explain it? I found the letter. I showed the letter to my husband. His response, it's not the letter he was talking about, even though when he previously remembered the letter it was a summary of what he read today, and that there's no way that Tenny and Terry are the same person, and that it could be that he thinks he read Terry instead of Tenny. He says he loves me and always will. We have been sleeping together up until a few days ago. I know in my heart that I was making love, but it seems it was just a good time to him. He says he did it because I wanted it. It seemed this morning that Terry didn't matter anymore at all, and he said in a by-the-way tone that alright, he was wrong about Terry. He accused me for no reason. He said at some point earlier that he had facts about Terry and that as long as I wouldn't come forward with the truth there was no way to forgive me. He cannot understand how I was able to retrieve that letter, and it feels like this letter has taken all the wind out of his sail. None of his reactions make sense to me. They are not logical, and I therefore think there is something deeper that I simply don't get or not see. I analyze everything. sometimes to the very end, and I have spent the last 3 years analyzing my marriage, my own behavior as well as his behavior. I know he does not want to divorce me, but I also know that he is not happy in the state he has been in lately. Another thing I'm sure of is that moving back into our old house, seeing the patio where we spent night after night after night talking after D-Day, the chairs we sat in, the room where I slept and had my computer set up and chatted with the OM, we moved back into all these triggers, and that's when I noticed a difference in him. Zero bonding, depression, withdrawal. We did this for financial reasons. We basically had no other choice and have been able to put aside a nice chunk of change to get us moving forward and purchase a new home. A fixer-upper dump, but paid for. These were out planning, and I know he would still want to move forward with this. This is where I stop understanding things. How can you actively talk about future things like buying a home, building equity, and going into business with each other if you are not interested in the marriage anymore? If you don't care about the marriage, having these plans for the future of course gave me a lot of hope and had me thinking positive. He is not the type of guy to go talk to other guys about his feelings. If you'll want to talk about computers for him, I'm sure he'd be all for it, but not the touchy stuff. He knows I'm posting and reading here. He's seen the tons of notification emails I get every day. My password for here is the same as I use for everything else I can think of. All he needs to do is click on a link in my emails. I'm not hiding it. Yes, pretty stupid to confessing to something I didn't do. I felt like I'm having thumb screws on, and the only way to ease the pain was to admit to whatever he wanted to hear. The therapist compared it to the Spanish Inquisition and called the constant dwelling on the same thing over and over again obsessive. Bottom line is I do not know how to get him to talk or participate in working on the marriage. I don't know how to make him fall in love with me again. The only thing I see that was left for me to do is offer to let him go. He isn't happy about it, and I know he doesn't want it. He said there's no hurry for me to move out. He doesn't think I should move out at all. What he wants is for us to continue raising our daughter, put money aside to buy a foreclosure dump, and work towards opening our own office. He loves me but is not in love with me. He has slept with me but says it's because I want it. He takes care of my car and doesn't mind me cooking his favorite stuff. Be nice to him. Exchange Christmas presents. His present to me was the most thoughtful thing you could ever imagine. Something that you could never buy with money. It's basically like a normal marriage, and we don't fight about anything as long as I don't bring up the affair. I don't know what to call this. I don't know what to do with it. I need to know where I'm coming from and where I'm headed. I feel like I've been falling around in the dark for 3 years. I need direction in my life. Staying together and making plans for the future but not being in love with each other does not make sense to me. It's not who I am. I have paid $150 for divorce papers for my state, ordered online this morning. We are clear about all the specifics. There will be not fights. I'm not going to drop everything to fill out those papers ASAP and run to court with them. I'm not going to rush this along. I don't want the divorce at all, but I will go through with it if I don't see anything coming from his side, and I'm willing to take the smallest piece of straw that I can spot. I do believe that this marriage can be saved. I'm not a serial cheater. I have no reason to want other men. I want to be his wife, but I can't do it all by myself. I need 1% from him. I'll do the rest. A while ago, while we were still in MC, I had a bit of a breakdown because I felt more confused and lost about what to do than before MC. I completely freaked out. I ended up asking him to please hug me. He did, and he took my face in his hands and kissed me. I can't say this in words, but that statement was so strong it almost knocked me off my feet, and I knew that no matter how hard it would get, I would not give up on him because there was something left to fight for. I believe he does want to hurt me or see me in pain. I think it's probably a natural response, like people want revenge for when they are wronged. If he would tell me, look, I know this hurts you and you are in pain, but it helps me get over things, I'd be asking for all the pain he has to give to me. I know I deserve it and I'm willing to take it. But he's not saying anything. He's just not saying anything. We just talked on the phone about our work situation. He wants to leave the current office we are working for and go independent, and said I could go with him. Totally normal conversation, making plans. This is not right. We are a great team at everything other than making our marriage heal. We have worked through the worst financial crisis one can imagine. So bad we sometimes drove our daughter to Granny's house for a few days because there wasn't a quarter left to buy a chewing gum. And we worked through this as a family. We are raising a wonderful teenage girl, smart, mature, but messy and compassionate. The only reason why she hasn't been able to play hubby and me against each other is because we are totally on the same page when it comes to raising her and family values. How come we can't work on the darn marriage together? We can talk about anything else, solve problems. Most things don't even need to be said. We already know what the other thinks. They call us Batman and Robin at work. Time to move on. Things are going to have to run their course. I feel like I have done everything I can to be transparent. Take poly tests, get tattoos, find out the reason for my affair. MC. I understand his triggers. I don't care anymore what he thinks about Terry. I really don't care anymore. My husband is obsessed with certain things and there is nothing I can do about it. It will run its course. I'm not trying to save anything anymore because I can't do it all by myself. It's that simple. We are back on the same course we were before, but I think there is a bit more effort from his side to work on things. That's good and I'm glad about it. I would not go as far as saying my marriage is saved, but it's on a positive path. My marriage is now different than before. It's a new one. It's better than before. I see myself in an entire new role. It's to make my husband happy. Before it was more like, how can I get my husband to make me happy? I still do a lot of understanding things, putting dots together. I have all moments. I'm still developing new principles. I feel like I'm rebuilding myself into the person I want to be. I want to be the person my husband wants to be married to and grow old with. As I'm working on myself and on my marriage, I become increasingly angrier with my mom and the rest of my family overseas. So many light bulbs are going up. So many things I remember being told it's not a big deal, get over it, that are a big deal, and no. I'm not getting over it just like that. So many lies I've been told, things I was made to believe, stories told differently or just pretended they never happened. I'm having a hard time talking to my mom on the phone. If it goes beyond what the weather is like, it gets iffy for me. I communicate with the rest of them through Facebook and it's the same thing there. Exchanging recipes, family pictures, talk about the weather. I do not miss them. If I had to say it, I would have to lie. I don't want to be part of that. I don't want to visit them. I do miss my home country, the food, the culture. Just the way they do things over there, but not my family. I believe that in order to know where I'm going and how to get there, I need to know where I came from. I can't fix something if I don't understand how it works and why and how I broke it. I need answers for myself and to myself and why I did what I did. To simply say I needed attention is not enough. It's like reading only the title of a book. You have to actually read the book to know what it is about, even if the title sums it up. I know there is more and I might not ever get to the absolute end of it and close the book, but I have to try my best to get as far as I can, and not just for my marriage but also for myself. I know I went about the wrong way in many things since D-Day. I would like to say that I didn't do any of them intentionally. I never received the manual on how to make amends. It's trial and error, a constant learning process, but so is life. I'm a firm believer that there is a positive to be taken away from any negative. It has never ever failed me, even if my marriage would have ended in divorce and no matter what lies ahead for my husband and me. But the lessons I have learned, I can't put a price on it. I wish very much my learning experience would not have been at my husband's and daughter's expense. My comment: what is the important lesson you learned from this story? Can things turn around? Check out the recent stories. Let me step up and prepare tomorrow's video early for you guys.